Good afternoon. Online people, please confirm my voice is audible or not.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and hope my screen also visible, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in 11:45 class, we discussed about SQL and we discussed about types of commands in SQL. At high level, what are the types of commands we are having? DDL, DML, DRL, DCL, and DPL. So these are the list of the commands we are having as part of our SQL. So within the DDL, what are the commands we are having? Create, alter, drop. And when we are going to use the DDL commands, if you want to perform any kind of operations on the structure, then we are going to use the DDL commands. What about DML? If you want to perform any kind of operations on the data, then we are going to use the DML commands. Here we are going to use insert, update, and delete. So DRL is nothing but data retrieval language. If you want to retrieve the data, if you want to read the data, or if you want to extract the data, then we are going to use the DRL commands. We are going to use the select command. Same way, coming to DCL, data control language. If you want to provide the access or if you want to remove the access on top of our database object, then we are going to use the DCL commands. And which commands we are having here? Grant and revoke. And TCL is nothing but transaction control language. So what kind of transaction control commands we are having? Commit and rollback. When we are going to apply the commit, whenever you want to save all your changes in the database set, then we need to go for the commit command. And whenever you want to revert all the changes on the database system, then we can go for the rollback command. So these are all the different types of commands we discussed as part of our morning session. Okay. And after that, we completed installation process for MySQL. I hope everyone is having the MySQL, because from now onwards we are going to start with the practical Sunday. So assuming that everyone is having the MySQL and it is in the working state. Okay. So once you install the MySQL, if you want to open MySQL, just to go to start, type MySQL, go to start, just search with the MySQL. So once you start searching with the MySQL, here you can able to see one option called as a MySQL 8.0 command line client. Click on that. MySQL 8.0 command line client. Okay, so once you are going to click on this, it is going to open a black window like this. And in this black window, we need to provide the password. Which password we need to provide? Our Gmail ID password? No, right? As part of installation, in one of the steps, we are giving the password, right? So same password we need to provide here, Andy. So please provide that password. So once you given the password, it is going to give the prompt like this, MySQL prompt. In black window, give password, click on enter. So with that, you can get SQL prompt. Now from this SQL prompt, we can able to perform all our database operations, or we can able to write our SQL queries and everything. So this is the way simply we can able to open our MySQL prompt. Actually, if you want to run all your queries, only we are having the one more option by using the workbench. Say to write SQL queries. Here we can use CLI interface, or we can use workbench. What is the workbench and how we can able to use the workbench, that we can discuss in the coming classes only. But for now, what we are doing here, from the command line prompt, we are going to write all our SQL queries, and with that we are going to perform all the operations on the database system. But if you want to write the SQL queries, generally we are going to use either command line prompt, or we can able to use the workbench. What is the workbench? How we can able to open the workbench? And how to write the SQL queries in the workbench, we'll discuss in the coming classes. Okay. Now, this is the black window we are having. In this black window, we are going to perform all our operations. Hope everyone able to see. Or you want me to increase the prompt font? Okay, 1 second. Is it fine? No? Okay. Okay. Now see here, if you want to perform any kind of operations in your SQL prompt, so first what we have to do here is we need to create a database, and because if you are going to create the tables, already we are having the so many databases in our database system in the MySQL. Those are nothing but our system related databases. So whenever you install the software, or whenever you install the MySQL database, by default it will create the multiple databases. And now if you are not going to create your own database, you will get the confusion in which database you are working. For that reason, what we can do here, better to create a separate database for all our work. With that, easily we can able to track all our information by using a specific database. Just I will mention, create specific database to track all our work. Create a specific database to track all our work. For example, before creation of the databases, I want to see what all are the databases available in MySQL. So here, what is my requirement? Before creating the database from my side, I want to verify that what all of the databases are available in the MySQL. And if you want to see the databases information, here we can able to provide the query called as nothing but show databases. So this is the command we can able to provide. So what is the command I'm giving here? I'm giving the simple command called as a show databases. Once we are going to give this command, what will happen? It will display all the list of the databases which are created already. So out of all these, sample one which I created, all the remaining databases we haven't created. Then who created? As part of installation, your MySQL database itself created all these databases. That's the reason all these databases we can able to call it as a system related databases, and we are not creating all these databases by default. As part of installation, your MySQL created all these databases. That's the reason we are calling it as a system related databases. Okay, but if you want to create our own database, then what we can do here? Simply we can able to give the command called as create database. We need to provide the database name. I am giving here CDE underscore batch 19. You can give any name only. So we are giving the name as a CDE underscore batch 19 because CD is nothing but cloud data engineer, and this is the batch 19. Just for the tracking purpose, I'm giving it as a create database CDE underscore B19. Click on enter. And one more thing, if you observe here, for each and every query, what we are doing, we are ending the query with a semicolon. That is the best practice, or that is the thing we need to follow here. Whenever you are going to write the query, what we are doing here, every query we are ending with the semicolon. Okay, first query, if you want to see all the databases in the MySQL, we are given the query called as a show databases. If you want to create a separate database for our work, we are given the query called as a create database name. Just I will type it here. Okay. create database name. With that, what we can do here, we can able to create a database. Now I want to see whether this database is created or not. So what we can do? I want to see whether this database is created or not. So what I can do here? Again, run the same query one more time, show databases, click on enter. If you see here, what is the database we created? CD underscore batch9. Earlier we don't have the table, but now we can able to see the database called as a CD underscore batch19. So this is the way simply we can able to create the database and we can able to display the databases. Okay. Now you tell me why we are creating the database here. Whatever the work going forward which we are going to perform, I want to do that entire work into this database system. But currently what is happening here? We don't know in which database currently we are working on. So for that reason, if you want to switch to your database, what is the database here which we created? CD underscore B19. If you want to switch to the specific database, then here we are going to use the command called as nothing but use command. By using the use command, we can able to switch to the specific database. After creation of the database, if you want to switch to the specific database, then what we can do here, we are given the command called as nothing but use command. By using the use command, what we are doing here, we are switching to the specific database based on our requirement. Now, for example, I'm giving this command. Now see what happened? Database changed, which is nothing but now currently we are working in which database, Andy? We are working in the database called as nothing but CD underscore B19. Now, whatever the tables which we are going to create, all those tables where it is going to create, it will create in the CD underscore B19. That's the reason after creation of the database, we need to switch to the database. Whatever the database we created, we need to switch to the database. After that, we can able to perform all our operations. To switch database which we created. Use CD underscore B19. So by using the use command, we can able to switch to our required database based on our requirement. If, for example, if you are going to create the 10 databases, out of 10 you want to switch to some specific database, then what we can do, simply we can give it as a use CD underscore B19. So this is the way simply we can able to switch from one database to other database by depending on our requirement. Okay. Now in the same way, if you want to see the list of the databases, what is the command we used? Show databases. Now my requirement is in my database, I want to see list of the tables. So what is my requirement here? In my database, I want to see the list of the tables, and already we switched to the CD underscore B19, which we created just now. Now in this database, I want to see the list of the tables. But you tell me, in this database, have we created any tables so far? No, right? Now, if I want to see the list of the tables, for example, then what is the command we can able to use? Show tables. If you want to see the databases, we are going to use the command called as a show databases. But if you want to see the list of the tables, then what we can do here, we are given the command called as nothing but show tables, and just give this command. Now see what is happening. It is saying that empty set. What is the meaning of empty set? In this database, we don't have any tables. Now, for example, in the information schema, so who created the schema? As part of installation, MySQL created this schema, which is nothing but in this schema, we can expect some tables, and but how I can switch to this schema? Use. Just give it as a information underscore schema, click on enter. Now database is changed. Now if I'm given the show tables, you can able to see all the list of the tables. See, all these are the list of the tables, but these are the tables presented in the CD underscore B19 or presented in the information underscore schema. Information underscore schema, all these tables are available. And who created all these tables? As part of installation, your MySQL created all these tables for the purpose of tracking our metadata information. We haven't created this table. Just I will come back to our database and CD underscore B19. So this is the way simply we can able to switch from one DB to other DB, and this is the way we can able to list all the databases. This is the way we can able to list all the tables as part of our database system. Okay. Now tell me here why we are discussing these commands and how we are going to use these commands in the real time. Might be you can able to feel that all these are the basic commands, but why we are discussing these commands and how we are going to use these commands in the real time projects. For example, you are entering into one real-time project and you want to see all the databases which they are maintaining in their project. So then what we can do simply? What we can do? First, we are going to get the database access. How you can be able to get the database access? Are we going to install the MySQL in the real-time projects? No, right? Already you are having the databases available in our real-time projects only. And how you can able to log in? Just now what we did, we given our own password. But if you are going to work in the real time, are we using our own password or we need to get the password for the login? You need to get the username and you need to get the passwords if you are going to work in the real time. You need to get username and passwords to log in into database system. But who will provide all these details to you? DBA person will share these details. But tell me whether DBA person directly will share these details to you or from whom you are going to get this information. We are having the database admin team definitely. Now, as a database admin team, whether they are going to share username and password directly to you or from other person, we are going to get this information. So see here in real time.
From team lead.
We won't get these details directly from DBA. Then what will happen? DBA will share this info to your manager or lead and they will share these details to you. This is the process going to happen, but in every project again it is not going to happen like this only. In some of the projects DBS directly will share the username and password to you. In some of the projects what will happen, instead of sharing it directly to you, what they are going to do here, they will share it to your manager or lead. Then manager or lead are going to communicate that username and password to you only. So this is the process going to happen as part of our real time. But one more question, how DBA person can able to understand he need to create the username and password to you? Here I'm saying that DBA person can able to give that information. He is creating the username, he is creating the password for you. But for example, I'm the Srinivas. I joined in one company. How DBA person can able to understand? I joined in the company. I am having the requirement to work on the database. Can he able to guess himself? No, right?
No.
Now, internally, what will happen is in the real time, once you are going to enter into the project, whatever the access is required, for that access, we need to raise the request only. Without raising the request, no one can able to guess it, which kind of access you are looking for. That's the reason, if you are going to work in the real-time project, what is the first step here? You need to raise the request for the access. Now, for what we need to raise the request? For the database. In the same way, if you are going to work on the cloud also, if you are going to work in the real-time project, first we need to raise the request to get the access for the cloud. Without getting the access for the cloud, you cannot able to perform any cloud related activities. In the same way, without getting the access for database also, we cannot able to perform any activities in the real time. So for that reason, here I can able to say, in real-time projects, first, we need to raise a request to get the access for database. So for this, we are not having any separate tools only. In every company, they are having their own individual tools. They are calling with the different names, but we can able to say we are going to raise the request to get the access for database. Now, once we are going to write this request to this request will go to whom? This request then will go to the DBA person. Then DBA person will share all the required details. He will create the access and he will give the access, and he is going to share the username and password. So this is the way simply we can able to understand in the real time how we are going to get the access. So first we need to raise a request to get the access for database. You need to get username and password to log in into database. For this, first we need to raise a request to get the access for database. After raising request, that request will go to DBA person. Then DBA person will share the access related details to whom they are going to share in the real time. We won't get these details directly from the DBA. So then from whom we are going to get it? DBA will share the info to your manager or lead, and from them we are going to get all the details, and with that you can able to access our database system. Okay, don't think that in the real time we are going to install everything and we are going to create the usernames and we are going to create the passwords, and everything is going to happen in a processed manner. You need to raise the request. That request need to go to DBA. He need to provide the access. He will create the username. He will create the password. Then he will share those details to directly to you, or they can able to share all the details to your manager and lead. Then manager and lead will share the details to you. With that, you can able to access your database system. This is the cycle you need to understand if you are going to work in the real-time projects. Any questions up to here? Please ask me. So what I can do here, simply by discussing about these commands, we can able to go to separate topic only, but that is not the way to learn. If you want to go work in the real time, if you are working in the real time, we need to learn everything from the scratch level, how to get the access to till advanced level. We need to understand everything. That's the reason we are discussing all these kind of topics also. Okay. Now, once you got the access, then what we can do? Whatever the steps we followed just now, you need to open that black window or command prompt. There you need to give the username and you need to give the password. Then you can able to see the SQL prompt. In this SQL prompt, you can able to perform any kind of operations which we are going to cover as part of our coming classes. Okay. Now, one more question. Why we are discussing about this show databases and show table related commands? What we discussed, once you are going to work in the real-time projects, you don't know in the project what all are the different databases we are having. You don't know what all are the different types of the tables you are using, Andy. But out of your own interest or because of your work, you want to understand what all are the different databases we are having in this project, or what all are the different types of the tables we are having in this project. You want to understand all this kind of information. How you can understand? Once you got the access, then automatically what you can do? You can log into database system. There you can fire the queries as show databases. It will give list of all the databases. Show tables. It will give all the list of the tables, and to perform all these kind of activities, compulsory we need to understand about all these basic commands also. Okay. In real-time projects, to know all available databases or to know all available tables, we need to use show databases and show tables commands. To know all databases and to know all the tables, if you are going to work in the real-time projects, we can able to use the show databases and show tables commands. And now one interview question, try to give the answer for this. In your project, how you can able to find out what all are the tables we are using? What's the answer? Show tables. So because just now we discussed about this topic, so simply you can able to give the answer by using the show tables. I can able to see all the list of the tables, whatever we are using in the project. That is the correct answer. But is there any other approach to find out what all are the list of the tables we are using in the project? This is the correct answer. Show tables is the correct answer, because just now we discussed about that. By given the show tables on the database system, you can able to see all the list of the tables. That is fine. But my question is there any alternative way to find out what all are the available tables we are having in our project? Already we discussed about that.
DBA document.
Which document?
That PDM.
Yes, so we discussed about the PDM document, right? I think day before yesterday we discussed about the PDM document, and in the PDM document, what we are going to have? We are going to have all the table structures, whatever we are using in the project. And who is going to provide this PDM document? Your data models. Okay. This is the answer as part of interviews. Interviews are going to expect and show databases. Everyone can able to say show tables. Everyone can able to, because these are the basic commands. But interviewer will expect how much real-time experience you are having, what kind of documents you dealt as part of your project. If you are going to give the answer, we are getting the PDM document. In that PDM document, we can able to see all the list of the tables. In that PDM document, we can able to see the relationship between each and every table. So that's the reason we are going to use the PDM document to understand what all are the tables we are having in the project. Alagani Japanese show tables is the wrong answer. No, show tables also the correct answer. But I am saying that there is other way to find out what all are the tables we are using in the project. First one, show tables. Second one, we can able to say it as a, with the help of the PDF document also, you can able to find out what all are the tables we are using in the project. Is it clear?
What's the full form of PDM, sir?
What is the full form of PDM? Already we discussed on the day before first class. And what's the meaning of PDM? Physical data model document. And who will give this document? Data modelers.
Modelers.
Any questions again up to here? It's clear, right?
Okay. Question.
Yes,
How
please.
do I know in which database I'm working?
Good question. How I can able to find out in which database I'm working? At present, I don't have answer for that, and I will check and get back to you for that. Is it fine?
Okay.
Now I will check and get back to you for this. Okay. Okay. Now we'll try to understand about our DDL commands, Andy. What is the first command we are having in the DDL commands? Create. What is the purpose of the create command? To define the structure of the tables. We are using create command. Just we'll see what is the syntax to create the tables. Or first we'll try to understand. If you want to create the tables, what are the basic details we need to get? Already we discussed about this also. What are the basic details we need to get? You need to get table name, and you need to get column names, and you need to get data type, and you need to get data type length, and you need to get constraints of the table. So all these are the 5 basic information which we need to get in the real-time projects if you want to create the table. As part of practice, we can give any table name or you can give any column names, Andy. But if you are going to work in the real-time projects, if you want to create the table, we need to get the table name, column name, data type length, and we need to get the constraints also. With the help of all these things only, we can able to create the tables in our database system. Okay. Now, just we'll try to understand at high level. What is a data type? In a table, we are going to maintain the different number of columns, and every column is going to contain the different type of the data. Some columns are going to contain the only string data. Some columns are going to contain the number format data. Some columns are going to contain the date format data. So to differentiate all these kind of things, we are having the option called as a data type. So coming to data types, we can able to see first data type called as integer. In a particular column, if you want to allow only the integer values, then what is the data type we need to provide? Integer. In our employee table, simply we can able to say which column we can give it as integer, EID column or salary column. Just for our easy understanding, I'm taking the employee table example. Later we'll discuss about the real-time examples. And in the employee table, employee ID column is going to contain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. We are going to have all the numbers. For that reason, EID column we can give it as a integer. What about salary? Do we have any value as a ABC in the salary? No, right? In the salary, we are having 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh. Like that, we are going to have the values in the salary column. That's the reason for salary column also, we can give the data type is nothing but integer. In the same way, we can able to see one more data type called as char. So whenever you want to maintain the string related values, whenever you want to maintain the string related values, in the situation, we are going to use the one more data type called as nothing but char data type. And whenever we are given the char data type, we need to pass the length also. We have to give it as a char of 10, or we need to give it as a char of 20. We need to give it as a char of 30 by depending on our requirement. Any guesses for which columns we are going to apply the char generally? I can able to say gender columns, or we can apply it for the name column. So for such kind of columns, simply we can able to apply the char data type. Now in the same way, we are having the one more data type called as nothing but varchar. So for varchar data types also we are going to use for the maintaining the string related values, and in a particular column, if you want to maintain the string related values, then what we can do here, we can go for the varchar also. Either we can able to use the char or we can able to use the varchar by depending on our convenience. And this also we can able to apply for either gender column or we can apply for the name column. In the same way, we are having one more data type called as nothing but decimal. Whenever you want to maintain any kind of fraction related data, then what we can do here, we can able to use the data type called as nothing but decimal. Okay. Now you tell me, integer and decimal both are indirectly what is going to maintain? Integer is going to have the numbers. In the decimal also we are going to have the numbers only. But what is the difference? Here we are having the normal number. But coming to here, what is we are going to have? We are going to have the fraction values, or we can call it as a decimal values. And whenever you want to maintain any kind of decimal values in a particular column, then what we can do here, we can able to use the data type called as nothing but decimal data type. In the same way, we are having one more data type called as a date data type to maintain date related values. We are going to use the one more data type called as nothing but date data type. And now tell me here, in this date column, can we able to maintain the hours information? Here we can able to maintain year, month, day. Only this is the information we can maintain in the date column, Sunday. Whenever we are given the data type as a date, in that column, what we can do here, we can able to maintain only YYY-MM-DD format data. But my requirement is, I want to maintain YYY-MM-DD. At the same time, I want to maintain the time information also, like hours, minutes, and seconds. That is my requirement. Whenever we are having that kind of requirement, then here we can able to use date, time. This is the one more data type we are having in our database system. With the help of this database, with the help of this data type, to maintain date and time related information. Like so, if you want to maintain this kind of data in the database system in a particular column, then we can able to maintain the data type called as nothing but date, time. In the same way, we are having the one more data type called as nothing but timestamp. We are having one more data type called as nothing but timestamp. And in this timestamp column also, we can able to maintain this kind of values. At the same time, in the timestamp column, if you want, we can able to maintain the zones also. What is meant by zone? We are having the US zone, we are having the UK zone. Like this, we are going to have the different types of zones. And in a particular column, if you want to maintain the zone level data, then for that column, what we will do here, you can apply the data type called as nothing but timestamp. For example, as per the requirement, other than seconds, I want to maintain the milliseconds also, which is nothing but like this. What I want to maintain? Hours, minutes, seconds, and also I want to maintain the milliseconds also. Whenever we are having such kind of requirement, then what we can do here, you can able to maintain the data type called as nothing but timestamp. And in the same way, if you want to maintain zone related info, just I'm giving the one example here. UTC zone. This is the one word we will use in the real time. And just to go and verify in the Google what is meant by UTC zone, so you can able to get some kind of answer for that. Whenever you are maintaining this, whenever you want to maintain this kind of zone information, or whenever you want to maintain the kind of milliseconds information also, in the situation we can able to use the data type called as nothing but timestamp. But tell me, really, do we need to worry about what data type we need to use in the real time? Really, do we need to worry about what data type we need to maintain in the real-time tables?
Yes.
Who need to worry about that? Your data modeler need to worry which data type we need to give for which column. And what we are doing? Simply we are going to open the PDF document. Whatever the data type data modelers are giving, simply what we will do here, we are going to create the tables by using the same structure. For example, for EAD column, he is given the integer. What we will do? We will create the table EAD integer. For example, for EAD column, he is given the decimal, because that is the decision he taken. So what we can do here, we are going to create the table with EAD column by giving it as a decimal. For example, for EAD column, he is given the data type as a varchar. Then can we create the table directly like that? It's a completely deviating in the topic, right? So EAD is an integer, but he is given the data type as a varchar. As a human, he also can able to perform some kind of mistakes, and then what we can do? Simply you can able to raise the question through the mail, or you can schedule the call with that person saying that for this column you are given the varchar, but in this column obviously we are going to see the integer values. In that situation, why we need to give the varchar, which is nothing but whenever you are having some kind of valid questions, and what we can do here, we can able to send a mail to them in the real-time project, or you can ping him and you can cross-check with him, or you can schedule a call with the database person or data modeler team, and you can able to explain about all your doubts. They will give the clarifications. Based on that, you can able to create the tables as part of our real-time. Indirectly, I'm trying to say in the real-time projects, as a cloud data engineer, no need to worry about what is the data type we need to provide for each and every column, and your data modeler will define all that information. Simply by using the document, we are going to create the tables in the project. Alagani Japani, can we able to skip this topic? No, right? Because in the lab, if you are going to create the table, who need to give the data type? You yourself has to give the data type. That's the reason just we are discussing about all these things, and don't focus much time on top of these basic topics. Don't think about what is the integer, what is the big int, what is the small int. All those are not required. Just to try to understand about these basic data types, it would be enough for the purpose of doing the practice. If you are going to work in the real time, we are not defining the data types. Who is defining? Your data modeler in the PDF document. By using the document, we are going to create the tables only as part of our real time system. Is it clear? At high level, we can able to say these are the basic data types which we are going to use. One is integer, char, varchar, decimal, date, date time, and timestamp. In integer column, we are going to maintain the numbers. In the char and varchar, we are going to maintain the string related values. Coming to decimal, we are going to maintain the fraction related values. In the date, we are going to maintain the date related values. Coming to date time, we are going to maintain date plus time. Coming to timestamp, date plus timestamp plus milliseconds. And also if you want, we can able to maintain the zone information also on top of your timestamp data type. So all these are the basic things we need to understand before creating the table, because if you want to create the table, what is required? Data type. That's the reason just we quickly discuss about all these things. Is it clear? Now table names we are clear, column names we are clear, data type we are clear. Data type length is nothing but, for example, for varchar, what we can do, we can give varchar of 10 or varchar of 20 by depending on our requirement. In the same way for char also, what we can do, you can give char of 5 or char of 10 by depending on our requirement, and that only we can able to call it as a data type length. Now last one, constraints.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, could you please tell me the difference between the char and varchar? I mean, because we are using on same purpose, right? So
yeah, we are using it for the same purpose, and but if you are going to give the char of 10, what will happen is, if you are given the char of 10, for example, for name, I'm giving the char of 10, but you are given the only 2 letters for that name. For example, you are given the value as a only AB. But what is the length we given here? 10. But how many number of letters we are passing in the name value? Only 2 letters, which is nothing but A and AB. Okay. But internally, what will happen is it is going to occupy the 10 bytes only, because whenever we are given the char data type, whatever the length we are giving here, those many number of bytes of space it will occupy in the internal database system. But coming to varchar, for example, here I'm giving the 100. What I'm giving here, I'm giving varchar of 100 for the same name column, but I am passing the value as a only AB. How many letters we are having for AB? Only 2 letters, which is nothing but, if you are given the varchar as a data type, internally, whatever the number of letters we are passing for the string column, only for those letters it will take the space. But coming to char, what is happening? Even if you are given the 2 letters or 3 letters also, it is going to take the complete length in our internal database system. With that, it is going to occupy the extra amount of space, and that's the reason generally we are going to apply the char on top of your gender column. Just for understanding, I added the name column, but generally here I can able to say we are applying the gender. Now you tell me, coming to name column, can we able to give any specific length? Every name is going to have the different number of letters, and for that reason, generally for name column, we are going to give it as a varchar. But what about gender? Either M or F, which is nothing but clearly we can define in the gender column, we are going to get only 1 letter. So for that reason, what we can do here, for the gender column, we can give it as a char of 1. Instead of char of 1, if I'm giving the char of 10, what will happen? Unnecessarily, we are wasting the 9 bits in the memory system, and that's the reason, if you know about the data in a particular column, if you know about how many fixed number of letters we are going to get in that column, then what we can do, we can go for the char. If we don't know how many number of letters we are getting in the string column, in that situation, we can able to use the varchar as a data type. Is it clear?
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, if I take, I mean, varchar only, I mean, not giving any particular number, just leave it like that. So it is like infinity now. But varchar of 100 we are mentioning.
Yes.
If I not mention anything, just varchar and
No,
open.
if you're not giving anything, it will throw the error. So
Okay,
for varchar and char, compulsory we have to give the length. That's the reason as part of typing also given the brackets. For integer,
Okay,
no need to give any length. But coming to char, varchar and decimal, compulsory we have to pass the length.
Okay, sir, decimal in the sense float, right?
Yes.
Okay, sir, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Just I will add the statement here, and if you know. Okay, just I'm adding the statement for your understanding purpose, Andy. If you know how many number of letters we are going to get for a particular column, and if that length is the fixed one, then what we can do here, we can able to use the data type called as nothing but char data type. Same statement, just I will repeat one more time. If you don't know how many letters you are going to get for a particular column, and if that length is varied. So in each and every row, if you are going to get the different number of letters, then what we can do here, for such kind of columns, we can able to apply the data type called as nothing but varchar data type only. If you know the length and if that is fixed, then we can able to go for the char data type. If you don't know the length, then what we can do here, you can able to apply the data type called as nothing but varchar data type. Any other questions so far?
Thank you, sir. No.
No problem. Okay. So next one is nothing but constraints only. Now, when we are going to create a table for a particular column, if you want to define any kind of conditions only for a particular column, if you want to define any kind of condition, then we are going to apply the concept called as nothing but constraints. While creation of the table for a particular column, if you want to define the conditions as per your requirement, then we can use constraints. Now, by seeing this statement, immediately people can able to get the question, sir, what is meant by applying the conditions on top of a column? Now, see, for example, so I am having the employee ID column only. Now, in this employee ID column, you tell me, can we able to get any kind of duplicate values? If you are working in a company, two employees can able to contain the same employee ID? Obviously no, right? Which is nothing but in this table, I don't want to allow any kind of duplicate values on top of the employee ID column. Is that a requirement or not? And don't again think that why we are discussing about basic example. First, to try to understand the concept. Once you understand the concept, then we'll go with our real-time examples. Andy, now in the employee table, for example, in my company, I'm having the 1,000 employees or 5,000 employees. Andy, every employee is going to have the different unique employee ID, or multiple people are going to have the same employee ID. Every employee is going to have the unique employee ID, which is nothing but in this table, in employee ID column, what is the condition we need to apply? This employee ID column should not allow any kind of duplicate values. Will you agree or not? This employee ID column should not allow any kind of duplicate values. Indirectly, I want to restrict the data on the employee ID column. Which data you want to restrict? Duplicate values you want to restrict on top of your employee ID column. But how to restrict that? To perform that operation only, here we are applying the concept called as nothing but constraints only. Here we are having the different types of the constraints. Just I will give the list. Unique, not null, primary key, foreign key, check, default. So like this, we are having different constraints. So we are having unique, not null, check, default, primary key, and foreign key. Other than this, we are having some other constraints also, but mainly we are going to use these constraints as part of our real-time system. Unique constraint, not null constraint, check constraint, default constraint, primary key, and foreign key. By seeing the name, any guesses? What is the purpose of the unique constraint?
Duplicate and not, it won't accept.
Into a
Wait.
particular column. If you don't want to allow any duplicate values. Very simple statements, and by seeing the names only you can able to understand this. Into a particular column, if you don't want to allow any kind of duplicate values, for that column, what is the constraint we can apply? Simply we can apply the constraint as a unique. Now you tell me, when we are applying the constraints, after creation of the table or while creation of the table? While creation of the table only we are applying all these constraints, and which is nothing but in this example what I will do here, on top of employee ID column, while creation of the table I will apply the constraint called as a unique constraint. Now for example, while creation of the table on this column I am applying the unique constraint. After that I entered all these values. Now I am trying to insert one more record like this. Now will it allow this value? What will happen? Simply it will throw the error. What is the reason? On the employee ID column, you are applying the unique constraint, but you are passing the duplicate, you are trying to insert the duplicate value on top of this employee ID column. So automatically what will happen? You will get the syntax error as part of inserting the data or loading the data. So by depending on the constraints only, your data will load on top of your tables. Okay. Now this is the meaning of the unique constraint. In the same way, any guesses what is meant by not null? Into a particular column, if you don't want to
value
allow,
not allowed in that column.
Any null values into a particular column, if you don't allow any kind of null values, and for that column simply we can able to apply the constraint called as a not null constraint. Now see, for example, we'll take the same employee table example. Now in this example I am having data like this. Now you tell me, is it a valid data? Employee IDs are having the employee names or not? Every person or every employee definitely he is going to contain the name. Now for example, if I am allowing to insert this kind of data, we are having the employee ID 4, but what is the name? We don't know, right? Which is nothing but indirectly we can able to say this is the kind of the invalid data. And now how we need to handle this kind of invalid data? I don't want to allow any this kind of invalid data into this table. So then what we can do? On top of this ename column, simply we are going to apply the constraint called as a not null constraint. If we are going to apply the not null constraint, if you are trying to pass this kind of value, automatically what will happen? It will throw the syntax error. But tell me here overally, what is meaning of null? That is one more important thing, right? What is meaning of null?
Null is empty.
Or we can able to call it as a kind of unknown value. We can call it as a unknown value. If you don't know the unknown value, then simply we can define that value is nothing but null value. Now if you are given the data like this, come into 4, what is the name? Unknown name. But is it the real time scenario? No, right? In the real time, every employee ID definitely contains the name. With the unknown name, no one is going to work in the real time company Sunday, which is nothing but in this table. I don't want to allow any kind of null values into the ename column. So how we can able to restrict that? For the purpose of restricting null values into a particular column, we are applying the constraint called as nothing but not null constraint. Now, for example, while creation of the table on this column, I applied the not null constraint. Now I am trying to insert this record. What will happen? It will throw syntax error because not null column will not allow null values. Because of that reason, you are going to get the syntax error. What about this record? It will also throw the syntax error. Overall, what we are doing here in the ename column, we are restricting null values by depending on our requirement. How we are restricting? By using the constraint called as nothing but not null constraint. Okay. Now in the same way, for example, in this table, I want to maintain one more column as a country column. And now in this country column, by default, I want to maintain all these values as single value. What is happening? Employee IDs are different. Employee names are different. Location might be different or might be same, but we are having the different locations. Coming to department name also, we are having the same names or different names only. But coming to country column, what is my requirement? All the employees should contain the same country name, which is nothing but every time do we need to insert this value? What is the requirement here? If you are going to maintain the 1 lakh records or 1 million records or 10 million records, and for all the records in the country column, I want to maintain the same value, which is nothing but indirectly in the country column, I want to maintain the default value. What is the default value you want to maintain? I want to maintain the value as a IN in a particular column. Whenever you want to maintain any default values, and in that situation, we are going to apply the one more constraint called as a default constraint. In a particular column, if you want to maintain any default value, then we need to apply default constraint. Now tell me, for example, for country column, I want to apply the default and D. So I'm giving the column name. I'm giving, for example, data type and data type length. After that, I am applying the constraint called as a default. Now tell me, that's it. Is it the correct statement? I given the column name, I given the data type, I given the data type length. After that, I applied the constraint called as a default. Now is the correct statement. You want to maintain the default value, but what we have to specify, which value you want to maintain it as a default value, that value we need to give it only. Otherwise, how database system can able to understand which default value you want to maintain? It cannot able to understand, right? That's the reason whenever we are applying the default constraint, we need to specify which value you want to maintain as a default value. For that reason, here we are going to give it as a space IN within single quotes. What it means indirectly, in the country column, by default, we are maintaining the value called as nothing but IN. But tell me, for the not null constraint, do we need to pass any this kind of values? For example, I'm going to give it as a ename varchar of 10. Then I'm applying the not null constraint. Now, do I need to pass any value after the not null? It's not required, right? In the not null, what we are saying, in a column, I don't want to allow the null values. We are not specifying that only this value you need to allow. We are not giving that information only. I don't want to allow the null values. For that reason, we are applying the not null constraint. For that reason, if you are given the not null constraint, no need to pass any values here. But if you are applying the default constraint, what we have to do here, we need to pass the some other values. With that only, you can able to apply the default constraint. Now, what about unique? For unique, do we need to pass any value? For example, EID, integer, column name, data type length. For column name, do we need to give the data type length? Integer. For integer, no need to give any kind of length. Only directly we can give it as a only data type. After that, we are applying the constraint. I am giving it as a unique. Now, after the unique, do we need to pass any value? It's not required because unique is nothing but that column should not allow any kind of duplicate values. And for that reason, just we are giving it as a unique. So this is the way simply we can able to understand how we need to apply the constraints while creation of the table. Unique should not allow duplicate records. Not null will not allow any null values. Default, if you want to maintain one single value for a single column, then we are applying the constraint called as a default. Now, any cases, what is meant by check?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, unique also not allow null values, right?
Sorry, come again.
Unique also won't allow null values, right? Unique constraint means it won't allow duplicate and null values.
No, see, for example, in a particular column, I want to allow the null values, but I don't want to allow the duplicate values. Then what we can do? Do we need to apply the not null or unique? Yeah, your statement is correct. So you are saying that unique will not allow the duplicates and also it will not allow the null values only. But if you see the requirement here in the ename column, what is my requirement? I don't want to allow the only the null values. But tell me, in a company, 2 employees can contain the same employee name or not? That is the possibility, right? So which is nothing but on top of the ename column, whether we need to apply the unique constraint or we need to apply the not null constraint to restrict the null values.
Yeah, but in that case, we are applying unique ID in the employee ID name, right? So if we mention if we apply unique constraint in the employee ID name, so we have to give employee ID number also.
Yeah, we have to give it. So what I'm telling you, we have to give the number also. Now tell me, without having any employee ID, any employee will work in the company?
No. It will allow null values also unique.
No, I didn't get your question, Andy. Can you please repeat the question?
No. So it will allow null values also.
Yes, that's the thing I'm telling you. So actually, just for understanding, I taken the employee ID example only. But actually, so now indirectly, what is the requirement here? In the employee ID column, you don't want to allow the duplicate records. At the same time, in the employee ID column, you don't want to allow the null values. So which is nothing but on the same column, what we need to do here, we need to apply the 2 types of the constraints. One is the unique constraint. At the same time, we need to apply the not null constraint. But instead of applying those many constants here, we are having the one more option. By using the primary key, you can able to restrict the duplicate values, you can able to restrict the null values. Just for the example, I'm saying that if you don't want to allow any kind of duplicate values in the EAD column, then what we can do here, we are applying the constant called as a unique. But your question is valid. You are saying that unique constant will allow the null values, but employee ID column should not contain any null values. Then how we can give it as a unique? Okay, so here I'm not discussing about the topic here, so I'm discussing about just an example. In a
I got it, sir. Yeah, I got it.
It's clear, right? Okay.
Yeah, fine.
So what is the check constraint? To check any condition on top of a particular column. To check any condition on top of a particular column before loading the data. To check any condition on top of a particular column before loading the data, then what we are doing here, we are applying the constraint called as a check constraint. And now, for example, see here I want to maintain one more column called as a salary column. Now, in this salary column, you try to give the answer. Do we have any employee who is working with the negative salary? Negative salary. No, right? Every employee should contain at least what? Greater than 0 rupees. And that can be 1 rupee or 10 rupee or 1 lakh rupee or 10 lakh rupees only, which is nothing but indirectly in this salary column. What kind of data we need to allow? We need to allow the values only which are having salary greater than 0 only. Whenever we are having salary less than 0 values, I don't want to allow any such kind of record. If you want to handle such kind of conditions, what we are doing here, we are applying the constraint called as a check constraint. With the help of the check constraint, what we can do here, we can able to verify the conditions by depending on our requirement. Now, if you want to apply this one, we can able to apply like this. Just give it as salary integer. After that, apply the check constraint. That's it. What we need to do? We are applying the check constraint for what? To verify the condition. Now your database system, how it can able to understand which condition you want to verify? It can't able to understand automatically. For that reason, here we need to provide the condition and we need to give it as, for example, salary greater than 0. So what it will do here, while creation of the table, we are giving it as a sal integer check of salary greater than 0. That is the constraint we are applying. Now after that, in this table, I am inserting one value like this. Now tell me, this record will it insert? It will throw error. What's the reason? We are applying the condition as a salary should be greater than 0, but we are giving the value as a equal to 0. For that reason, if you are trying to insert this record, automatically what will happen? It will throw the syntax error. While inserting the data or while loading the data on top of a particular column, if you want to specify a particular condition, then we are going to apply the constraint called as nothing but check constraint. Now, if you observe here, out of all these constraints, what is the common thing? Why we are applying all these constraints? To specify a particular condition. Okay. For EAD column, what is the condition we are saying? I don't want to allow duplicates. For ename, what I'm saying? I don't want to allow null values. Coming to salary, what I'm saying? Salary should be greater than 0. Indirectly, for each and every column, you want to specify some kind of conditions while creation of the table. For that reason only, what we are doing here, we are applying the option called as a constraints only. With the help of all these constraints, we can able to define some specific conditions by depending on our requirements. Okay. Any questions up to here? Again, please ask me. Any questions up to here? Is it clear? Okay. Now we need to discuss about the primary key and foreign key also. I know already we discussed about a lot of theory and now we'll start discussing about the practicals. After that, in the next session, we'll discuss about when we are going to use the primary key and when we are going to use the foreign key. Now we'll start discussing about the practicals. First, we'll see what is the create table syntax. It's very simple and just we have to give it as create table. We need to pass the table name. Just open the bracket and close the bracket and give the semicolon. Create table name. In between the brackets, we need to specify your column name, data type, and constraint. But tell me, for every column, do we need to apply the constraint? It's not required, right? If you want to apply the condition, then we need to apply the constraint. Otherwise, just we are going to give the only data types only. So that's the reason. Just I will give it in the brackets. What it means, if I am giving this bracket, this is nothing but optional only. Whenever we are given the column names, there is no mandatory requirement. Compulsory we have to give the constraint. Based on the requirement, either we are going to apply the constraint, otherwise what we can do here, simply we can able to skip the constraint also. In the same way, for example, here this is the column name 1. So we are going to have the only one column, or we are going to maintain the multiple columns in the table. We are going to maintain the multiple number of columns by depending on our requirement. Just for example, here in the syntax, I am giving only 4 columns. Okay. And for the last column, no need to give the comma only. Only for first 3 columns, we are given the comma. For last column, no need to give any kind of comma. Simply we can able to say this is the syntax we are going to use as part of creation of the table. Create table, table name. After that, within the brackets, we are going to give the column name, data type. If length is applicable, we are going to apply the data type length. Then we are going to apply the constraint for that column. This is the way simply we can able to understand what is the create table syntax. And if you want to make it very generic in the real-time system, Andy, then we can able to say here database name dot table name. This is the perfect syntax we need to understand. Generally, we can give it as a create table, table name. Your table will create. But if you are going to work in the real-time projects, Andy, whenever we are going to write the create statement, compulsory we have to give it as a database name dot table name. What is the reason? So, for example, you are having 2 databases, sample 1 and sample 2. Now, in the SQL prompt, you given use sample 1. Now, you are in which database? Sample 1 database. Now, after 2 hours or 3 hours, Sunday, you are going to create the table, but you want to create the table in the sample 2, but you forgot in which database you are working. Now, simply I am going to run this query. Without giving the database name, I am running this query. Then what will happen? You are creating a table as per your requirement, but in which database you want to create? In the sample 2 database, I want to create, but if I am going to run this query, now what will happen? This table will create in the sample 1 or sample 2. You are working in which database? I am working in the sample 1 database. Now, if you are going to create the table, what will happen? This table will create in the sample 1 database only. So sometimes we will do this kind of mistakes. But if you are going to perform the practice on the institute, that is fine. But if you are going to do this kind of mistake in the real time, what will happen? It will create a lot of problems. And that's the reason, what is the best approach we need to follow? Give it as at any point of time, give it as database name dot table name. Now, in this example, what we can able to say simply, I want to create the database in the, table in the sample 2 database. I'm giving sample 2. And I'm giving the table name is, for example, employee. Actually, you are working in which database? Sample 1. Now, you tell me if I'm going to run this query, in which database this table is going to create? Sample 1 or sample 2? It will create in the sample 2 because clearly I'm saying that database name dot table name. Because of that reason, in whatever the database you are going to work, whatever the database name here we are giving, only in the database that table will create only. Otherwise, what will happen? That table will create in the specific database. It will create the wrong impact as part of our real-time system. That's the reason. What is the best practice? Whenever you are going to create the table, you have to give it as a database name dot table name. But tell me, this database name dot, is it mandatory? This is not mandatory. This is the best practice which we need to follow as part of our real-time projects. Is it clear? Now, just we'll create one table only. Create table. I want to create the table called as a employee table. And I want to maintain some columns as employee ID column, integer data type. I want to give the unique constraint. I'm giving next column is ename column, varchar 10, and I don't want to allow any not null values in this column. I'm giving it as a not null. Then I'm giving, for example, DID column integer. Then I'm giving country column. For example, I'm giving char of 2. Why I'm giving the char of 2? My requirement is in this country column, I want to maintain the only single value. That value should be, for example, IN value only. Or in the country column, I want to maintain only 2 letters. If it is India, I want to give it as IN. If it is US, United States, I want to give it as a US. This is the way I want to give the data, which is nothing but I know in the country column at any point of time for any country, I want to maintain the only 2 letters only. For that reason, what we can do here for this column, we can give it as a char data type, and we are given the length as a 2. Just we'll create a small table like this first. So why it is given the arrow? I forgot to give the semicolon. So once you given the semicolon, then only this query will execute. And see here what happened. Your table has been created. But if you observe here, whether I given any database name?
No.
No, right? But I am working in which database? CD underscore B19. That's the reason in this database it will display this table automatically. But is it the good practice? No.
We have to
Better
give
to give the database name
database
dot table name. If you are going to do the practice or if you are going to work in the real time also, please give it as a database name dot table name. Okay. Earlier, if you remember, if I am given the show tables, what happened? It given the empty set. Now we'll see here. Show tables. What's happening? I can able to see the table called as a employee table only. So this is the way simply we can able to create a small table. And if you want to see the tables here, just we can able to give it as a show tables. Any questions on this? Please ask me. I know this is a very simple example. For the beginning purpose, I have taken this simple examples only. Slowly we'll enter into the advanced topic. But so far, any questions, please ask me here. It's clear, right? Now tell me, you are defining the structure of the table or you are defining the data of the table? I am defining the only structure. Now, for example, into this table, I want to define the data. Then which commands we need to use? If you want to define the data into the table, which command we need to use? We need to use the DML command. So morning we discussed Randy, whenever you want to deal with the data of the table, we need to use the DML commands. Here my requirement is, you want to define the data, you want to update the data. I want to define the data in the table. For this, which command we are going to use?
insert.
We are going to use the insert command. Just we'll try to understand what is syntax for insert. Sir, we discussed about only create command. What about alter and drop? Definitely we'll discuss about alter and drop also. So first we'll create one simple table. In that table, just we'll try to insert the data. With that, you can able to start your practicals after completion of the class. In the next session, we'll discuss about how we can able to use the alter, how we can able to use the drop. Okay, don't worry, we'll discuss about each and every topic in detailed way. Okay. So syntax for insert is also very simple. Insert into table. Just give values. In the bracket, you need to pass all the values only. This is the syntax of the insert command. Insert into table values. After that, open bracket and close bracket. Within the bracket, what we need to do here? You need to pass all the values by depending on your requirement. Now you try to give the answer. If I'm going to give the query like this, insert into employee table, I'm giving values. Now, how many values we need to pass in the bracket? How many values we need to pass?
How many columns are there?
Whatever the number of
Based
columns
on the structure we did.
exactly. So whatever the number of columns we are having in the structure of the table, compulsory we need to pass all those values only. Now in my table, how many columns I'm having? Total 4 columns. So how many values we need to pass? You need to pass total 4 values. If I'm giving the only 3 values, what will happen? We'll see what will happen. I'm giving, for example, 1, and coming to employee name, I'm giving, for example, X, and department I'm giving 10, and coming to IN, I'm giving it as a IN. Now you see here, for few values we are giving the single quotes. What's the reason? Here we given the varchar, and here also we are given the char, which is nothing but we are dealing with the string data types only. Whenever you are dealing with the string data type by using varchar or char, what we need to do? You need to pass those values within the single code. That's the reason here I given the second column as a ename in the single code, and fourth column is a country, which is also string column. So we are giving it in the single code. Now, instead of giving the 4 values, first we'll see with the only 3 values. Insert into employee values. I'm giving 1 extend. How many values I'm giving? Only 3. I'm going to run this query. See what's happening? Column count does not match value count at the row 1. And what it means? We are having total 4 columns, but how many values we are passing? Only 3 values. That's the reason what is happening here. It is throwing the error. This is the one thumb rule you need to remember. Whenever you are trying to insert the data, first thing what we need to understand? Whenever you are trying to insert the data, we need to understand how many number of columns we are having in the table. So this is the one basic thing you need to remember, Andy. Whenever you are trying to insert the data into your table, compulsory we need to understand how many number of columns we are having in the table. Based on that, we need to pass those many values into your insert statement. Otherwise, what will happen? We are going to get this kind of syntax errors. Okay. Now we'll apply the proper number of values. What's happening here? This record is inserted. Okay. Now, for example, I am trying to insert the one more record. Okay. Now you tell me, if I am going to run this query, what will happen? We'll see. What's happening? It is given the error duplicate entry 1 for key employee.employee ID. What's the reason? While creation of the table, what I defined? Employee ID column is unique, which is nothing but this column should not allow any kind of duplicate values. And already we inserted the value as a 1. Again, what I'm trying to do here, I'm inserting one more value as a 1, which is nothing but you are trying to insert the duplicate values. Will this table will allow the duplicate values? By depending on the constraint, it is not allowing the duplicate value. So automatically what will happen? This query will throw the syntax error, which is nothing but whenever you are trying to insert the data, what is the one more important thing we need to consider? First one, we need to consider number of columns in the table. Second one, what we need to consider? We need to consider constraints of the table. And without knowing the constraint, if you are trying to insert the data like this, what will happen? You are going to get the syntax error. So I can able to say, we need to understand constraints of the columns. Without knowing the constraint, if you are trying to insert the data, automatically what will happen? That will throw the syntax error. Now, for example, here I'm giving the 2. Now tell me this query will execute or not? Now this query will execute without throwing any kind of syntax error. And now how many records we inserted? 2 records. Now, if you want to see the data in the table, what we need to do? Indirectly, what operation we are doing? You want to retrieve the data from the table, or you want to extract the data from the table. Which type of commands we need to use? DRL commands, which is nothing but data retrieval commands. And in the DRL commands, which command we are having? Select command. So simply we can give it as a select star from which table? Employee table. Select star is nothing but, so morning I told you we discuss about this separately. And so star is nothing but whenever we are given the star, automatically it will display all the columns of the table. How many columns we are having in the table here? 4 columns. It will display all the columns in the output. If you see here, it is displaying EID, ENAME, DID, country. Like this, it will display all the columns in the table when we are given the star. For example, my requirement is I don't want to display all the columns. I want to display only particular column. Then what we need to do? Select. Instead of star, manually we need to give EID, ENAME from employee table. So this is the way also we can able to write the query. But if I'm going to run this query, what will happen? It will give only 2 columns. But if you want to see data for all the columns, what we can do here simply just give it as a star. With that, you can able to get all the columns information on top of your output. Star we are giving for retrieving all the columns. If you want to retrieve only specific columns, and instead of giving the star, we are giving the column names manually. Just run it. Now you can able to get the only EID column and ENAME columns. Okay. Just I will copy these column queries also here. Select star from employee and select EID, ENAME from employee. So with this, you can able to retrieve the data from the table. And now, whenever you are trying to insert the data, we need to understand how many number of columns we are having in the table. Second one, we need to understand what are the constraints of the column. Without knowing these 2 things, if you are going to insert the data, what will happen? There are the chances you can able to get the syntax errors. Okay. Now in the same way, just I'm trying to give one more thing here. Now tell me, if I'm going to run this query, what will happen? Third one. Insert into employee table values. I'm given the Y in the single quote, 2, 20, IN and D. If I'm going to insert this data, what will happen?
Error.
Throw the syntax error, because what is the first column? Employee ID. What is the data type we given? Integer. But what is the value we are trying to insert? String value.
String value.
It should throw syntax error. We'll see that. See what's happening? Incorrect integer value Y for column employee ID, which is nothing but again same question. Whenever you want to insert the data, what is the one more thing you need to understand? You need to understand order of the
Order.
columns and data types of the columns. Here, what is the mistake? Either by mistake, instead of given the 3 comma y, I given it as a y comma 2, or intentionally given the values like this. But if you are doing this kind of mistakes, again, what will happen? And it will throw the syntax error. That's the reason whenever you are trying to insert the data or whenever you are trying to load the data into the table, we need to consider the order of the columns and also we need to consider the data types of the columns. Otherwise, what will happen? That will throw the syntax error. Now, just I will change it like this. Now you tell me this query will execute or not. Will it execute? No, because see here already we inserted 2. Again, you are trying to insert the one more 2. So what will happen? Because of the unique constraint, again this query will throw the syntax error. So instead of 2, I am giving 3. Now what will happen? Now this query will execute without getting any syntax error. So this is the way simply we need to understand whenever you are trying to insert the data, compulsory we need to focus about the 3 different things. And one is how many number of columns we are having. Second thing, order of the columns. Third thing, data types of the column. And fourth one, we need to think about the constraints of the column. Without knowing all these things, if you are going to give the random values, automatically what will happen? There are the chances for getting the syntax errors. That's the reason compulsory we need to cross verify all these things whenever we are trying to insert the data into the table. Is it clear? Now if you observe here, till now we are having total 4 columns and for each and every column we are given the values. But now my requirement is I want to pass data for only specific columns. Only for these 3 columns, I want to insert the data. For remaining columns, I don't want to insert the data. In this example, we are having the 4 columns, but just assume that in this table, I'm having the 20 columns and out of 20 columns, I want to insert data for only 3 columns. Then what we need to do?
You need to enter null,
In the column.
null
here.
for all the columns.
Just give it as insert into table name. Then see here earlier what we are doing in the earlier syntax, we are not specifying any column names. What's the reason? In that requirement, I want to insert data for each and every column. But now what is the requirement? I want to insert data for a particular columns as per my requirement. That's the reason in this syntax, what we will do here is insert into table name. After that, in the bracket, we will specify the column names. What I'm doing here, insert into table name. After that, just we are adding the one more thing in the bracket. And what we are adding here, for which columns you want to pass the data, those column names we need to give here. Now after that, again, I'm giving it as a values 2, z, 30. Now tell me if I'm going to run this query, what will happen? First question, will this query will run? No. What's the reason? Because of not matching the number of values or because of any other reason?
Employee is
Here, first one, what we need to ensure? How many number of columns we are having in the table? In the table, how many columns we are having?
4 columns.
But in this insert query, how many columns I am passing?
3.
Only 3 columns. Okay. Now, if I am given the only 3 values, this query will execute or not? This query will execute because here I am given the manually 3 columns only. In the previous example, what I am doing? I am not giving any columns, which is nothing but compulsory. You need to pass the 4 values. But in this example, what I am doing here, after the table name, manually I am specifying that only for these columns I want to insert the data, which is nothing but how many columns we are giving? 3 columns. How many values we are passing? 3 values. This query should execute without throwing any syntax error. But we'll see here. What's happening? Sorry, it is giving some other error.
Semicolon.
No. We don't have any salary column, and it's my mistake. It's a department ID column. Sorry. See here, actually, I given the salary column, but do we have any salary column in this table? No, that's the reason it is given the error. Unknown column salary in the field list and just I will remove that. I will give it as a department ID. Now we'll try to run this. Now what's happening? It is given the error because of not matching the number of values or because of the duplicates. Because of the duplicates. Okay. If you are using any kind of syntax and all these rules are applicable. Number of columns should match, constant should match, column order should match, everything we need to cross verify. Here already we are having the value as a 2 in this table. Again, we are trying to insert the one more value as a 2. For that reason, it is given the error. Now instead of 2, what I will do here is I will give it as a 4. Now this query will execute or not? This query will execute, just will run it. See here, one row has been inserted. If you want to see the data, just give it as a select star from the employee table. Now you tell me, in this query, are we passing the data for the country column? You are given the data for only EAD column and ENAME column and DID column, but coming to country column, we are not passing any value here. Now in the country column, what data we can able to see?
It's a null.
In the country, because of not passing any value, by default, what's happening here? It is taken the null values only. If you are giving any data, it will take the data. But if you are not giving any data for a particular column, what is going to happen? That column value will take it as a null value. This is the way simply we can able to understand one more type of the syntax on top of your insert statement. Now you try to give the answer. What is the difference between this query and this query? In this query, what we are doing? We are passing the data for all the columns by depending on the requirement. In this query, what I'm doing? We are passing the data for only particular columns as per the requirement. In the real time, there are some kind of scenarios only for few columns we need to insert the data. For that reason, we are discussing about this one more syntax on top of your insert statement. Okay. Now in the same way, just I will give one more last query. Try to give the answer for this. I want to insert data for only two columns, EAD column and DID column. I am giving the values are like this. Now you tell me this query will execute or not. I will give it as a 5. Are we using any different syntax or same syntax? Same
It will not
syntax, but
execute.
here I want to insert data for only two columns only. What I'm doing here, I'm given the EAD column and DID column. Only for those two columns, I want to insert the data. I given the two columns. How many values are given here? 2 values. Now this query will execute or not?
It will not execute because we are violating the constraint.
Which constraint we are violating?
Not null.
Yes. So see here, for ENAME column, what is the constraint we given? Not null. But in this query, are we passing any data for the ENAME? No, right? Now tell me, if you are not giving any data for a particular column, by default, what value it will try to take? Null.
Null.
But coming to ENAME column, what is the constraint we define? Not null. What is meant by not null? That column should not allow any null values only. Now we'll try to run this query and we'll check it once. What's happening? ENAME does not have any default value, which is nothing but ENAME column is not allowing any kind of null values only, which is nothing but if you are using any kind of syntax, compulsory you have to remember all these 3 statements only. How many number of columns? What is the order of the column? What is the data type of the columns? And what all are the constraints we are having in this table? All these things compulsory we should remember. Otherwise, you will get the syntax errors. Now you tell me overallly, in this example, compulsory in which column we need to pass the data? Compulsory into the which column we need to pass the data? In the ENAME column, compulsory we need to pass the data only. For EID, DID country, it will allow the null values. But coming to ENAME column, it won't allow any kind of null values. For that reason, compulsory we need to pass the ENAME values. Otherwise, it will give the syntax error. That's the reason. Just I will add it as a ENAME, comma department ID. Here I will give it as, for example, subway. Now see, this record has been inserted. Now if I am going to run the query, sorry. What's happening? You are getting total 5 records only. For 4 and 5, we have to insert the country value. That's the reason here we can able to see it as a null values. Okay. This is the way simply we can able to understand what is the syntax of the insert statement. At the same time, what all are the rules we need to follow as part of running our insert command, or what all are the important points we need to remember as part of using our insert statement. Now you try to get the answer finally. Whenever you are going to perform the insert operation, what all are the things we need to cross verify? Order of the columns and number of the columns and constraints of the columns and data types of the columns only. Without checking all these things, if you are trying to insert the data, there are the chances to get the syntax error as part of our real-time system. That's the reason compulsory you should remember all these statements. Is it clear? Now I hope you can able to start your practicals only, because we discussed about the multiple examples and we discussed about the multiple scenarios also. I will share this document to you, and everyone is having the MySQL registration completed already. You know about how to open the command prompt, that SQL prompt. In that you can able to start the practice. Okay. And one more sincere request, whatever the topics we are discussing every day, to practice for same on same day or after 1 week? On same day. It's my sincere request, Andy. Otherwise, what will happen? Tomorrow I'm going to start discussing about one more topic. Tomorrow, for example, we are going to have 3 classes. We'll discuss some more topics. After that, again, we are going to discuss about one more topic, Andy. After that, if you are going to start creation of the table, what will happen? You will get so many questions. When I'm discussing about the joins, if you're asking the question about, sir, how to create the table, what I need to say? When we are going to discuss about the joins or when we are discussing about the advanced concepts after 1 week, at that point of time, you are asking the question, sir, can you please tell me how to create the table, or I am getting the syntax error when creating the table. What I need to say? Simply, I will say, don't ask such kind of questions now, Andy. That's the reason whenever we are discussing any topic, immediately by next day, please perform the practice. With that, what will happen? Every day you can able to understand all the classes in the very easiest way. Otherwise, after 1 week or 2 weeks, if you are going to start the practice, you will get a lot of confusion. In the confusion, what will happen? First, you will get the confusion. Then, after that, you will get frustration. After that, you will get bore feeling. After that, sleepy. Sleepy already got already. This is the starting stage actually. This is the starting stage. After that, confusion. After that, frustration. After that, bore feeling. At the end, what will happen? Simply, we are going to get a complaint. What is the complaint? Not quality third. Faculty not teaching. First thing. Second thing, not covering real-time examples. Third thing, not covering real-time scenarios. Fourth thing, not covering complex scenarios. Cheppin practice here, but they will raise a simple concerns. Their faculty is not covering all these things. But when all these things will come into the picture, this is the status. Step by step. This is the pipeline. First one, sleepy feeling, confusion, frustration, bore. And at the end, what will happen? People are raising the complaints, Andy. Don't, at any point of time, don't fall into this category, Andy. Please do the practice on every day. Automatically you can able to get the interest. Automatically you can able to get the understanding. Once you are understanding everything, what will happen? You yourself can able to get the motivation to do the practice for the next day, Andy. For example, first day you are thinking that all these are basics. Second day also you are thinking all these are basics. Third day, what will happen? Suddenly I'm going to discuss about the advanced concepts. At that time, if you are going to start with the basics, what will happen? You are not in sync with me. Automatically, you are doing one practice. I am explaining one more topic. That sync will gone. Saturday and Sunday will come. Saturday and Sunday are the holidays, right? By Monday, what will happen? We are going to complete the 6 to 7 topics. Then this cycle will start. That's the reason. Don't fall into this kind of category. Please do the practice for each and every day, Andy. Again, I'm repeating the same statement. Next 3 months are very, very crucial. For me or for you? For both, Andy, because my target is in this batch, at least I need to, at least 60 to 70% people should get the job. That is my goal. From my side, what I can do, I can give the technical guidance, I can give the support, I can give the real-time examples, I can cover the real-time scenarios, Andy. But from your side, what you need to do? You need to sleep in the class. No, right? So don't sleep in the class, Andy. So I can understand after the lunch, you will get the sleepy feeling, but try to avoid the sleep and all the things and try to understand everything. Without sleeping, person will present here, but mind will present some other place, Andy. Don't do that activity also. You should be here. Your mind also should present here. You need to understand each and every topic and you need to perform the practice for each and everything. After 2 or 3 days, I will give the assignment by considering all these topics, Andy. If you want to do that assignment, you need to do the practice for all these things and you need to understand all these things, okay? Please follow my guidelines, Andy. Every day for 5 or 6 minutes, I will give this kind of guidelines. When I'm started discussing about these guidelines, don't think that what is this nuisance. Don't think like that, Andy. I'm going to give such kind of guidelines for your career perspective only. So please do the practice. Please understand everything. With that, you can able to get the perfect knowledge on each and every topic, whatever we are discussing in our classes. Is it clear? Okay. Now one last thing. So tomorrow, we don't have any classes. Okay. So morning in the GCP side, we discuss so many things, Sunday. So please do the practice on those things. At the same time, in the database side, we discuss about all these things. Please do the practice for all these things. And this Saturday and Sunday, we are going to have the classes. Immediate question. What is the immediate question? 2 classes or
Friday?
3 classes and we'll see either 2 or 3 classes by depending on the number of people or by depending on your interest. So we are going to have the classes on Saturday and Sunday. So Friday also we are having the classes. Friday, Saturday and Sunday, all the 3 days we are going to have the classes. That might be the 2 classes or 3 classes by depending on my availability. Is it clear? Okay. Okay, then we'll meet you on Friday.
Sir, hello.
Yeah, tell me. The remaining people, if you want, you can leave for the day. Thank you.
Yeah, in the earlier class, like I got an error right while installing the Cloud SDK.
Yeah,
So-
you tried with the PowerShell.
Yeah, I tried with the partial, but still I'm getting the same error.
Okay, 1 second. Online people, if you don't have any questions, you also can able to drop other people.
Sir,
Yes.
Saturday